is Adventures in Vinylland, where we take a look at vinyl releases of the past, the present, and maybe even the future. I'm your host Randy, and it's time to continue our David Bowie month with Low. In 1976, David Bowie was in a tough position. Though Station to Station garnered critical acclaim and sold well, his time in Los Angeles was taking a toll on him. The city gave him easy access to cocaine, and many thought he was going crazy. He meant for his thin white Duke persona to be menacing, but the drugs were causing him to think that he was the Duke. There were some comments that he made to the press that bit him in the ass. He said and did some seemingly pro-Nazi things, with quotes ranging from, "I really think Britain is ready for a fascist leader," and "Hitler was the first rock star." People started to keep a close eye on him. Then, a photo surfaced where he reached his hand up seemingly mid-wave, but the media blew it out of proportion, saying it was a Nazi salute. Fans still argue as to whether it was a real salute, or if the press was using an unfortunately timed photo to make David Bowie look bad. One thing's for certain, Bowie's head was not in the right place. Even with his riches and fame, he found himself on the brink of poverty. His epiphany that he needed help came when he repeatedly rammed his Mercedes into the vehicle of a drug dealer that he believed had ripped him off. He had to get out of Los Angeles and get his life together. He moved to Switzerland and then Berlin with his best friend Iggy Pop, both trying to kick their habits. In order to stay away from temptation, Bowie kept himself busy. He took his rejected music from The Man Who Fell to Earth and reworked it. While some elements made their way into Station to Station, he had remaining musical ideas. Inspired by Kraftwerk, New, and the Krautrock movement, he once again focused on changing his music. But it's one particular collaboration that really made this album special. He listened to Brian Eno's minimalist album Discreet Music and was so captivated that he saw to it that he would meet Mr. Eno. In mid-1976, they met and clicked instantly. Collaborations happened within weeks, and it seemed that David Bowie was on his way to writing another masterpiece and, most importantly, cleaning himself up. Now, this album was recorded in both France and Germany, which is part of how the Trilogy got its name, the Berlin Trilogy. The first half is full of drony, noisy pop songs that are still Bowie-esque. The second half featured something new, ambient tracks composed by both Bowie and Eno. Low was released on the 14th of January 1977 to a fractured critical response. Some viewed it as a maturing of his sound and image. Others were bewildered by the Eno compositions and felt that it was humorless. Nonetheless, the album sold okay, but it was a bit of a dud in comparison to the monstrously popular earlier albums. Now, if my research proves to be correct, this copy of the album came from either France or some other European pressing. On the cover, we see Bowie in front of a fiery orange background. Facing to the right, what photographers call a low profile, which is how the album got its name. The album title also reflects the general mood of the album. You're going to notice it's one of Bowie's darkest recordings, mostly because of his recovery from cocaine addiction. Now let's send this thing a twirling on the turntable and see what the hype is all about. Side A starts with Speed of Life, a short burst of synthesizers and drums, giving us a proper bookend for the album. Bowie intended for vocals to be featured here, but ditched the idea, thinking that the song spoke for itself as an instrumental. And it's hard to blame him. Just listen to how awesome this sounds. Breaking Glass shows the album wasting no time getting to the depressing bits. It's one of Bowie's most lyrically introspective songs, exploring his guilt and shame. The unique choppy rhythm is unlike anything Bowie had written before. You're such a wonderful person, but you got problems. Oh. What in the World continues the experimentation with odd rhythms and synthesizers.
Deep in your room, you never leave your room. Something deep inside of me, yearning deep inside of me, talking through the gloom. What in the world can you do? What in the world can you do?
The lyrics talk about his desperation to find pleasure in the pain of his addiction. There appears to be a woman that he's begging for the attention of, possibly even unrequited. Sound and Vision is a slower piece. We hear a joyful guitar melody and uplifting touches of Eno's synthesizers contrasted with Bowie's morose vocals. The lyrics focus on his newfound musical ideas and how they express his low state of mind.
Don't you wonder sometimes about sound and vision?
The layered vocals are a treat to hear. It's one of Bowie's best songs in his entire discography. Always Crashing in the Same Car was about the situation where he rammed his car into someone else's vehicle. You can hear in both the vocals and the synthesizers that he was not proud of this moment.
Always crashing in the same car.
There was a third verse of the song that was removed due to it being sung like Bob Dylan. Since Dylan was involved in a motorcycle accident years earlier, it was seen as tasteless. Be My Wife has heavy guitar and drum work.
Sometimes you get so lonely. Sometimes you get nowhere. I've lived all over the world. I've left every place.
Bowie sings in a state of depression again, wishing a woman would be his companion while he traveled around the world. A New Career in a New Town is, as the title implies, about Bowie's move from the States to Europe. It contains no vocals whatsoever, and communicates so much in its style and melodies that it's often touted as one of Bowie's finest songs. There's a feeling of joy bursting out through the instrumentals. They build up and back down twice, showing us that there is light even in the darkest of times. Side B starts the ambient part of the album, and this is where things get really interesting. Warzawa starts with a droning ambient part, meant to symbolize the destruction of Warsaw. A weeping melody comes in, repeating and modulating partway through. After 3 minutes of Eno making you feel all of the feels, there's another modulation and Bowie's vocals come in. Apparently over 110 voices were overdubbed by Bowie. And he did it all in under 20 minutes. The vocals express a great sadness, and the track closes out repeating its melodic theme. Our Decade has a tribal feel to it. It was meant to mimic the Art Deco style that was massively popular in Europe throughout the century. The song was actually saved from being scrapped because Brian Eno personally loved it. Weeping Wall is an instrumental that is meant to be about the mystery of the Berlin Wall. Bowie plays all of the instrumentals on the track. It began its development as part of Bowie's Man Who Fell to Earth soundtrack. The song carries elements of dread and curiosity with a complex rhythm. It gives you a strange feeling of what it might have been like to be on the western side of the wall, wondering what was on the other side. The album closes on Subterraneans, which was meant to depict the sadness felt by East Berliners during the Cold War in the 1970s. There's reverse sound effects and most notably a detached saxophone solo by Bowie. There's heavy vocal layerings, with the lyrics chopped up and left intentionally indecipherable. The vocals play off the saxophone solo wonderfully, closing the album off in a perfect fashion. Low is often looked at as one of the best, if not the best, David Bowie album in his entire discography. It's a sad album showing a man struggling to make a recovery, barely able to make sense of his own emotions. It went on to inspire many depressing acts like Joy Division, The Smiths, and the Red House Painters. Most importantly, it shows a man at work, distracting himself from his addictions, reaching out for an answer. Eno's role really adds to Bowie's struggle. I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would, for reasons that I'll go over when I review Heroes in the next episode. Now, getting this album on vinyl can be a little bit complicated. It wasn't cheap. They wanted $20 for it, saying that it would have been more if it wasn't for some sort of residue on the record from a sticker. I spent a good hour cleaning this off carefully, but after listening to this album and analyzing it, I can say that it was well worth the efforts. And of course, you can find this thing on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and all over the place, just as usual. That about does it for this episode of Adventures in Vinyl Land. Join us next time when we review Heroes by David Bowie. See you later.